Now that you are no longer a club owner, I mean, you can breathe that bit easily because you've told me umpteen times he didn't like transfer deadline day, Emmanuel.
Why?
It wasn't one of his favourite days.
Sometimes you make great deals, you know.
I don't like transfer windows. I think there are. I mean, you wouldn't have been subjected to them that many times because obviously when you were being transferred, transfer windows didn't come in until 2005, did they? Really?
Yeah.
So we didn't see so much of it from your career because you were coming to the back end. I hated it because all it is an opportunity for the media to get overexcited, for agents to get overpaid, for players to get over-rewarded.
Yeah, but
and creates a downward spiral of inflation that hasn't helped football. I think the transfer window should never have been created. I think you should be able to buy and sell players whenever you want, except post, say, March, when it can affect directly clubs trying to compromise one another by buying the teams at fourth and bottom from the table if you're getting relegated centre forward. I think that there's no reason for transfer windows. It's a restriction of trade, and all it's done is inflate the market.
Yeah, but if you don't like transfer market, how can you manage to get players?
I don't like transfer windows.
Oh, okay.
All transfer windows have done, Emmanuel, is inflate the price.
It's a deadline aspect.
I understand
you didn't
that.
like Simon. You didn't like the deadline
No,
aspect.
of course,
There should be no. Simon's of the opinion should be free trading all season long.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, I can agree with you, but I think if you want to change something, you know, on the transfer window, I think we should stop, you know, open the door to the transfer window when the leagues are starting, you know.
Why?
Because I think it brings troubles, you know, into a dressing room, into the clubs, for the managers, for the players, for the agents, for everyone. So as soon as we finish, you know, the transfer market, the league can start, you know.
And then be disrupted again in January.
No, I will stop the January market as well.
So you would just have one transfer open between the end of May or June until the end of August or to the beginning of the season, and then that's it.
Yeah, before the Premier League starts, you know, it has to be end.
I like that, Emmanuel. You got to get ahead of the game.
You know, I've seen so many successful people, you know, running big companies, you know, outside football, making a lot of money. As soon as they come into football, they lose their mind.
There's no restriction in any other industry when you can buy and sell something.
Yeah.
In any other industry, you can buy and sell things whenever you choose. So why would you restrict a fluid industry like football that gets injuries, that gets circumstances?
Because that's what I said.
Planning. So how can you plan for injuries?
No, you cannot.
You buy a roster. You're limited by the amount of players you can have because you can't have too many of you guys.
But I mean, when you have 30 players in your team, I think you can afford, you know, to have some players injured.
Or according to Pep Guardiola, you can't have a squad bigger than 22.
Well.
So make your mind.
I mean, you still play with 11 players on the pitch. So what's the point to have a squad with 30 players if you cannot afford, you know, to face problems, you know, that injury players, for example.
He speaks to someone that's never managed.
No, I mean, I was a player, so sometimes I'm tired of hearing, you know, president complaining all the time, you know, as well players, you know.
Yeah.
Because of the money, you know, I spent on wages and transfer market. Is it because of the market, because of the valuation of players, or the price are increasing all the time? No, because people are losing their mind. There's some clubs, you know, especially in England, that are working very well. They are not losing their minds. It's Brighton and Brentford.
It's also created by different ownership models. That's very binary to say it's people losing their minds. But if you've got nation states in your country, you've got Qatari ownership that's bought a football club for different reasons.
Yeah.
They're not bound by the governance of, I want to build a football club because I want it to be successful. They're built by different things. So all of a sudden, that changes the market. So it's not just a case of people losing their minds, although you are right. People do lose their minds in football.
Emmanuel, take that while you've got it. You are right. Remember when that was said?
He's right. It's nothing
10 on a Monday morning.
Nothing's absolute, is it?
No.
No one's definitely right or definitely wrong.
Listen,
Simon, I agree with you. In France, we have to play, you know, European competition, but without the same rules. You know, the taxes, you know, in France are huge, and we are so far away from what's Italy, Spain, things like, even in England, you know. So the competition, you have to play the same competition, but with not the same rules.
Well, talking about Qatari ownership, PSG is under Qatari ownership, and it's being reported in France, Emmanuel's France, that Donnarumma is set to join Manchester City, or in fact, it's done. We have it from the highest authority at PSG. Hold your horses. Not done yet. But Donnarumma to City.
The rumors, you know, in France are saying that he's signed. He's going to sign for City today.
Yeah, going to sign for City today. We know what is all but done. And of course, that is Alexander Isak, this long, summer-long running story, now looks to have come to some kind of a conclusion. And it is done. £125 million, a 6-year deal for Isak to go to Liverpool. The fee, of course, an increase on the first offer, the only other offer of £110 million that Liverpool submitted back in August. And of course, you know the story here, Emmanuel. Isak has all but refused to play for Newcastle since then. We'll get into that. But Simon, have Newcastle done the right thing in acquiescing to Isak's demands, if you like? Or after holding firm all summer, do they now look weak in buckling at the last moment? They say the deal is worth to them £130 million.
I don't think it's either. I think quitting whilst you're ahead is not the same as quitting. They have always perhaps been prepared to sell Isak, but not on his terms. The complete misrepresentations that the player wanted to advance, that he sat down with officials who told him he could go, irrespective of the conditionality. I don't think Newcastle have been particularly vague. They've said the player, in their preference, would stay, but would only leave on their terms. And if they've moved the needle by 15, 20 million quid, then in part, it's on their terms. They've met Liverpool in the middle. If they've taken 5 million off the player from some loyalty payment one way or another to supplement the deal and got Liverpool up by 15 million quid, then Newcastle have done their job in a slightly unpalatable situation. They've banked 130 million quid.
But having said that, Simon, we hear last week 2 senior officials were round at Isak's house saying, come on, how can we sort this?
Well, we don't know what...
So how does it look days on now?
Well, we don't know what they did and didn't say. And first and foremost, it was incredibly weak of 2 officials to rock round to his house. Because if you've got a player that works for you, he comes to you. You don't go to him. And you certainly don't go to his house. That's ridiculous. But the fact is, Newcastle didn't want to sell him for 110 million quid. Liverpool tried to buy him for 110 million quid, and they didn't get him for 110 million quid. Newcastle wanted 150 million, and they met in the middle. And
Emmanuel, you're well aware of what's been going on here. Yeah. Has this case shown that when push comes to shove, what a player wants, a player gets?
You cannot keep a player that are not happy, that wants to leave. So you have to find a solution. History shows you that always the same things. If you keep a player that doesn't want to stay at the club, that it will be a troublemaker into the dressing room.
What do you think about the way he's gone about it?
I don't like it.
Would you have ever done that?
No, personally, no. I never done that. And I can't remember, back in days, but I think that was not the same amount of money, and I think it's a crazy world now, actually, in football. So I can understand sometimes agents are controlling, players, and now they have the power inside the club, so they can do whatever they want. But I don't like it, to be honest with you. But I've been reading, so many things, from fans, killing them. I've been listening so many people, trying to convince me that they disagree, with what Isak or Wissa as well, with Brentford, is doing actually. But I just want to tell them this is exactly what's happening in football. Players are doing what they want when they want to leave the club, even if they're under contract, they don't care. But the clubs is acting the same way when they don't keep players under contracts. So this is the world, this is the rules actually. It's not pointing the finger to players.
Strike and don't pay the
I'll give you an example recently in France. And it's Mikotadze, the striker for Lyon. He left 3 days ago for Villarreal in Spain. He signed a contract for a couple of years. And he did well, since he came last season. And he was crying, he didn't want to leave the club. Look at Donnarumma, for example. Still 1 year left on his contract. He just wanted to stay at the club. And the club show him the door. So when the interest, doesn't go your ways, then some people are acting,
You say the club showed him the door, and I don't disagree with the effect that clubs can freeze people out, but they can't remove themselves from their obligations. So I can't, as a club owner, say to a player, I don't want you anymore, so I'm not going to pay you anymore, and I'm not going to deal with you anymore.
You never done that.
Well, yes, of course I've done it to players, and you're not part of the...
When you don't want to keep a player, you didn't tell him, doesn't matter your contract, I want you to leave?
No, your contract is your contract, but you haven't done what I expected you to do. The coach isn't happy with you anymore, so we don't want you anymore.
Yeah, but still have a contract.
But here's the thing.
If he wants to stay.
If you insist upon staying, I'll have to pay you, won't I? Now, as a player decides, like Isak or Wissa, well, I don't want to stay, so I'm not going to play. So whilst there is a correlation between the two falling out of one another, club falling out of player, playing out of a club can't run away from its responsibility. It can make life difficult, but players can. Players can run away from their responsibility and go, unless I get what I want, I'm going on strike.
Yeah.
and that's not equal. That's not equilibrium.
And who's that fair on? It's certainly not fair on the Newcastle fans in this instance, Emmanuel, is it? Isak said, if reports are right, and we've no reason to say that they're not, that if Newcastle wanted to hold on to him, Isak was like, no, I don't wish to be reintegrated into the squad. So forget that.
He couldn't do that. Because even if he had to stay at the club, can you imagine the motivation? It will be a troublemaker, for the manager. It will be very difficult to manage,
Yeah.
And the reaction from the fans as well. So you have to find a solution. So I can understand what you're saying, but for me, it's a business at the end of the day. So everybody is looking for his own interest.
Of course. Well,
at the end, the only person that's losing in this case are the fans.
Sure. Ben Jacobs is live in studio. And it's really happening now, is it not? Ben, good morning.
Yeah, good morning. Breaking news, and it involves Newcastle United. Sold last night Alexander Isak, whose medical is about to start. British transfer record, 125 million. And another attacker, along with Nick Voltemada, is about to come in. Yoane Wissa from Brentford will join. He's in Newcastle, medical about to start. And I understand that Wissa has agreed a 4-year contract. The fee will be £55 million. Fantastic deal for Brentford. Only 1 year left on his contract, but with a 1-year option, and that informs the valuation. And this was Newcastle's 4th bid, and it has now been accepted. So 2 attackers in for Newcastle, Yoane Wissa the latest, and Alexander Isak off to Liverpool.
I mean, he released a statement, Ben, just yesterday, and Emmanuel, Simon, I'll read a small part of it. And this is where the players, it seems without any shadow of a doubt, Emmanuel, you're smiling, yeah, seemingly hold all the power right now. In a statement over the weekend, Simon, Wissa, I have stayed silent for much of the summer, but with just hours remaining of the transfer window, I feel compelled to make it clear that I want to leave Brentford. I believe the club are unduly standing in my way despite a series of fair offers throughout the summer. This is what gets in your nerves, Simon, isn't it?
Well, yes and no. I mean, one stinker goes out, one stinker comes in. Well done, Newcastle. You've got one coming in doing the same thing to Brentford that you were complaining about doing to you, which is what we were talking about, right? So out goes one stinker, in comes another one.
Stinker.
But the fact of the matter is who won and who lost. Brentford got £55 million for a player that's not worth 55 million quid. So whilst the player is sat there and protesting about the unfairness of how he had some fictitious gentleman's agreement, the club played their cards to the point where they got 55 million quid. Newcastle played their cards until they got Liverpool up to 125 million, got the player to take a 5 million chip on a loyalty payment. So at the end of the day, whilst it looks like the players have had their 2 penneth and had their say, the contract has still been worth something because the clubs have leveraged it into a financial return.
But they kind of have, though, Simon. This has become the summer of broken promises, Emmanuel, hasn't it?
Promises.
Yeah.
Contract doesn't mean anything anymore. I mean, you can do whatever you want with a paper, even if you sign at the end of the paper. It doesn't matter. It's only business. It's only money. So who cares?
Would you have put out a statement at any time in your career like that?
Well, I come from, a different generation. I come from different generations. So even when I went back, I came back to England when I left Barcelona. I signed a 4 years deal, with Barcelona, and after a couple of months, I knew that I was making a mistake. And but I didn't go on strike, I just had a nice and honest discussion, talks, with the clubs, and for both interests, it has to be a win-win situation, and that's why we made an agreement, and everybody was shaking their hands at the end of the.
So what's the difference, Emmanuel, between your generation and this generation?
People now, they know that it doesn't matter if you sign a 7 years contract. They know that it can be in a toilet paper, within the next few weeks if the interest, change. It's simple as that.
Do you go with that, Simon? Is it a generational thing?
Yeah, well, he's a product of his times. But also, that's why he's a World Cup winner. Because there's substance about it and there's an integrity. People will make a lot about Guehi's situation.
Yeah, but football is not the same as well.
That's what I'm saying.
It changed a lot.
The finances have changed. The ownership models have changed. The landscape has changed. A contract is still worth a contract. It's about how much balls you've got to defend it. If you really wanted to dig in, if the Saudis really wanted to dig in, and say to Isak, you will do as you're told, then the contract is worth something. But they made a commercial decision. And the commercial decision is, at the end of the day, Liverpool didn't get what they wanted, which was 110 million quid. Newcastle didn't get what they wanted, which was 150 million quid. They met in the middle, and the player goes off, and hopefully he gets exactly what he deserves.
What does it do to the image of Newcastle, Simon? This is a huge club with huge ambitions.
Well, Liverpool, a bigger club. If it were,
If had the crown jewel stolen from them.
If it were Aston Villa buying it from Newcastle, it would do a lot of damage to Newcastle. If it's Newcastle competing against a legacy football club like Liverpool, the current Premier League champions, you bake it into your thinking. Newcastle got Liverpool up by 15 million quid. Now, whether we like it or we don't like it, that was the outcome. The players' behaviour, reprehensible. The union's silence, pathetic. The culture of football, not to be admired. But it is what it is. And so, in the interest of a commercial outcome, which is what Emmanuel talks about, this is business. The only thing different about a contract is it doesn't cut both ways. Because if the club stands down a player, they've still got to pay him. If a player stands down a club, he seems to be able to do what he wants. And that can't be something that people admire.
Simon, as we said, we were having a brief chat in the break there. One of the dullest Old Firm games I can remember. I said no goals, no drama, no big deal. That was exactly it between Rangers and Celtic yesterday. Normally, you expect a lot of drama, a lot of excitement, Emmanuel. Nothing to talk about there, really. But we will talk about it. Incidentally, Derby Day, that really gets me. This Derby Day fixture. It's the Old Firm. That's what it was when I was growing up in Glasgow. Derby Day. You kidding me? It's a derby for sure, but it's a different sort. That is for sure too. A stunning strike from Dominic Szoboszlai saw Liverpool take all 3 points over Arsenal. We're going to get into this with Emmanuel. Arsenal, of course, one of his former clubs. Advantage Liverpool, but in the context of the race, is it impossible to land a psychological blow this early on? And there was all kind of talk that Arsenal were playing not to lose. Were they guilty of that? This was Mikel Arteta.
We didn't do our game plan to frustrate them. We did it to win it. I think we elevated the game and the dominance to a point that they have to raise it. They did, especially from the 60 to 78. When then you could see that there were no margins in the game. And then when that happens, the game is going to be decided in two ways. One, with an individual error, and two, with a magic moment. And so was like created a moment that it was incredible, that has won in the game, and that was the difference, nothing else.
Emmanuel Petit in studio with Simon and myself. Emmanuel, playing not to lose, are Arsenal guilty of that this Monday morning?
I think I liked the first half, even thinking that they didn't bring too much danger, to Alisson, the goalkeeper. And I think I was, from the start of the game, I was quite frustrated with the first 11, the team sheet. And I was thinking, what the hell? If you bring players like Eze and as well Odegaard and they're on the bench, so that means they're able to play. So what's the point? You play against probably your toughest opponent, to win the Premier League. And one of your best player, you put them on the bench at the start of the game. So I didn't understand that. So after the game, I was very frustrated with the result, of course, but with the second half. And I was quite frustrating with the lack of connection, with Gyökeres. I was very frustrated with once more time, the production from Martinelli. And the way they've been driving the ball, controlling the ball. I think this is something very good if you want to control the ball, especially in midfield. You have to put a rhythm into the game. But at the end of the day, you have to score goals. That means you have to play, up front, in open areas. Things like this, you have to bring danger, You have to play sometimes a crazy movement, You have to change the speed, the rhythm of the game. And I was asking that, so intensely, on sitting on my sofa at home, watching the game, and it never happened. And I was very frustrated. And at the end, they try, to put balls all the time, the last 5-10 minutes, the same way, it was predictable all the time. It was easy, to defend, from the Liverpool defenders. So there is some excuses, when you're missing, big players like Saka and Odegaard, Eze as well, that kind of guys, it has an impact, especially for Gyökeres, the link with the forwards. But for me, this is not the excuse that, it's like the tree that hides, the forest, behind it. So you have to realize that the Gunners yesterday have played against Liverpool, and they are not at the best level, and now they bring Isak into the team, so it's gonna be much more difficult to reach them.
Yeah. And yet, Arteta says, Emmanuel, we didn't play to frustrate, we played to win.
The first half, yeah, they are. But, you know, in some occasions, I was thinking to myself, that reminds me, you know, the bad Spain national team, you know, when they were controlling the ball, you know, give me the ball, I pass you the ball, give me the ball, I pass you the ball, give me the ball. And at the end, what are we doing with the ball? Are we going to score goals? Are we trying to score goals? So they did try in the first half, but not enough for me to bring the real danger, you know, for the goalkeeper and for the Liverpool defense. And in the second half, I was very disappointing the way they were playing.
Is it on Arteta, Simon?
Well, I think so. I mean,
Or is this just the modern game?
No, I think it's unfortunate for Gyökeres. I think he's a little bit of a poor man's Erling Haaland that only comes alive in the 18-yard box. But if you don't give him any service, then he doesn't come alive. You could see that he was making runs, but running into space that others were in, right? So that ultimately they're not linked up yet. No one in the midfield has a clever pass in them. They're good players. Zubimendi is a good player and controlled certain aspects of the game. And they were strong, Arsenal. In the first 25 minutes, they were physically stronger than Liverpool, and they overpowered Liverpool. And that was probably the purpose of that particular team selection. But there was no invention in it. Martinelli looks a fraction of the player. Madueke was predictable. Madueke did the same thing every single time. He never put a ball in early. He just ran the line. So the fullback knew what he was going to do in the end. So I look at it and say, whilst I take some solutions from Arsenal's play at certain times, there wasn't any ambition in the way that they played in the second half. And it's all well and good bringing on Eze when the game is 1-0 down. Go win the game. Liverpool weren't in control of this game. Go win it. And that's what I felt that was lacking in Arsenal's game, was the ambition from the manager. And that's what may cost him in the longer game, because he has no excuses. Whether you play Liverpool twice a season, you get done twice by Liverpool. There's 36 other games, and he will have to be different in other games, and they have to be more ambitious. And the thing about Arteta is I'm not sure that he has that switch to go and try and win games like Southgate didn't have at England level. I'm not comparing Southgate and Arteta, but for the purpose of conversation, it's a correlation. Arsenal was strong and powerful and physically big yesterday, and some of the players on the field overpowered Liverpool. But in the second half, when they needed to have a clever pass in them, they don't have it. They didn't have it.
Simon's strong in it. You two are strong in it as well, Emmanuel. Peter Schmeichel, Manchester United legend's gone for it. Arsenal bring an ugly brand of football to our game. Arteta, let your team play football.
Yeah, I understand what he's saying, because I get bored sometimes. And I just want Arsenal to be back those days, 3 years ago, when Arteta was playing beautiful football, strike football, strike to pass the ball to the forwards, bring speed and great movement, at the end of the box, the last third of the pitch all the time. And that was very difficult to defend, because the danger was coming from everywhere. Now it's like, as I said, it's like I give you the ball, you give me back the ball, I give you the ball. And even some players, are starting to get bored on the pitch, and they don't have any solution afterwards. I was looking at Gyökeres. I totally agree with you what you were saying about Gyökeres. I was concentrating on him for at least 10 minutes during that game yesterday, and he was quite upset about the run he was making all the time. And you could see that sometimes Mourinho, even Zubimendi, they were holding the ball, and they saw, the run he was making behind, in open space, and they never gave him the ball all the time. And they were always playing back the ball, always controlling the rhythm, was thinking, hey guys, at the end of the day, if you want to score goals, we have to go forward.
Right, but Emmanuel, with the right service, could Gyökeres explode on this Premier League?
He never get one since he signed. So, I mean, the goal he scored at the Emirates, he created the chance for himself.
Yeah, and a lot of text coming in. Hang on, Liverpool weren't that inventive themselves. Apart from Szoboszlai's brilliant moment with the free kick, did Liverpool show you much?
No, but they won the game.
They won the game.
I mean, you can win ugly when you are not at the best level. This is what big teams, do to win titles.
What do you want to see Arsenal do in the weeks ahead?
I just want them to come back the way they were, 3 or 2 years ago, with brilliant movement, great passing, I mean, I remember, 3 years ago, it was such a great pleasure to watch Arsenal, because every time they get the ball, they were putting on the pressure of the opponents, and they were at the edge of the box, the last third of the pitch, as I said. They were making great movement. There were probably 3, 4, 5 different options, for the players who was holding the ball all the time. It was great movement, with passion inside the box all the time.
Emmanuel, are the best title defences not built on a strong defence? Your Arsenal had a strong defence.
Yeah, but strong defense is one thing. It's good, if you want to win titles. If you want to be able as well to make differences, on set pieces, corner, things like this is what Arsenal, are performing very well. And this is good as well. But as I said, don't forget the DNA of Arsenal, which means great movement, great pressing. You have to bring craziness. At the end, the last side of the pitch. This is something that's been missing, for the last couple of months for Arsenal. And Saka was not on the pitch, so this is a big miss as well.
Yeah.
But Odegaard as well was not there. And there were no creativity, inside the team. So I'm thinking, okay, you brought some players, important players, but I don't want to see, because Mikel is Spanish, I don't want him to go step by step even further, to the like of what Enrique has done, a few years ago with the national team, in Spain, or even Guardiola sometimes when he was trying to do with City, it was quite bored to watch. And I just want them, to don't forget that if you want to win games, you have to go and kill them,
Emmanuel, in a sentence, from what you've seen so far, and now with Isak on board, is it Liverpool's title?
Well, it's too early to say that, I think. It's only 3 games, So, but we have something has to change. It's good, as I said, it's good to control the game. Look, I have an example. Luis Enrique, since he came to Paris Saint-Germain, and it's been 2 years now, it started, last January. But for at least 16 months, it was bored to watch. It was kind of boring, It was controlling the ball, controlling the rhythm. But something changed, especially against City, end of January this year. And they changed dramatically. They play straight forwards. They play quick football. And they became invincible, and they won the European competition.
Yeah.
And this is something that has to change, with Arsenal. I want them to come back what they were doing, on the pitch 2 or 3 years ago. Direct football, great movement, things like this, If you want to win titles, you have no options.
Yeah.
You have to do that.
Every Arsenal fan in the land, Simon, seemingly is lifting the phone and trying to get through to us this morning. Yourself sitting with me here in studio on the 17th floor of the news building, alongside former Arsenal huge favourite Emmanuel Petit, former Arsenal midfielder. And we're talking about Arsenal going to Anfield yesterday, losing by a single goal to nil, but maybe it's the manner in which they came and left. Is there value in playing not to lose? Were they playing not to lose? And why didn't Eze start? Why didn't Odegaard start? All sorts of questions. Not least, is Arteta the man to see you all the way through this season to this Premier League title? 03717 223344. Reese, you're a big Arsenal fan, and Emmanuel Petit, none other, is sitting in studio with us this morning. What would you like to say? Good morning.
How you doing, man? It's nice to be on there. It's nice to talk to Petit as well.
Good morning.
I don't know where to start. I feel like Arteta definitely took us as far as he can take us now. I feel like it's time for him to go. He's done good for us, but he's not there to get us through the finish line. Last year, the top teams that were coming up there, Newcastle, Crystal Palace, they've sold most of the best players. So I feel like Man City are continuing what they've done last year. I feel like it's just between us and Liverpool again. And the way it's going, we're going to finish second again, and that's not good enough.
Do you see it? Here's Emmanuel then, Reece. Do you see it that way, Emmanuel? Is he right?
Well, when I see Isak's coming to Liverpool, as I said, Liverpool was not at the best level yesterday, and still they won the game. So with Isak, it's gonna be much more difficult, to reach the target. And as I said, it's like catch me if you can. So something has to change with Arsenal, and they are not far, to be very competitive, to win the title. But they need to bring back, the DNA of Arsenal on the pitch. Crazy football, crazy movements. You need to go on the pitch with only one thinking: win the game. Doesn't matter if you play home or away. You have to get the same mentality, the same ambition. Which means if you want to win that game, you have to put the danger up front.
So you're asking for a different approach from Arteta?
It's good to have the record, as the best defense, no problem at all. And they must receive credit for that, and as well for what they've done so far, on set pieces and corner, things like this. But I remember, Arsenal winning title because of the strengths they put up front. They had great defenders, great midfield, but at the end, we were always talking the same way about Arsenal. The way they move the ball, the great passing, the great movement. Of course, we had magic moment, but it was always the brand, the DNA of the team when we were winning titles. It was always because of that.
And that was a Wenger DNA, wasn't it? What's the Arteta
Yeah, but
DNA?
Arteta can do that because I was very, very enjoying, what Arteta brought,
But Emmanuel,
to
the
the
straight
pitch.
question to you and you, Reece, is Arteta the man to steer Arsenal all the way to the title? Can he get them over the line? They've been close time
This
and
is
again.
his last chance, definitely. I mean, with all the money we spent so far, I was making the difference, with Liverpool. If Liverpool have the chance as well, because this is something else as well, to sign Gueye from Crystal Palace, which means that will be £400 million on the transfer market. Arsenal has spent more than not far from £250 million,
Yeah,
which is a lot of money.
Yeah.
Did they improve the team from last season?
Reece, do you agree with Emmanuel? This is his last chance at
Yeah,
it.
that's the thing. Do we give him enough time? How long do we give him? Because the longer we give him, we're giving other teams more time to improve.
Simon, Reece is saying, Simon, it's a two-horse race already this season.
And I think there's probably some merit behind that. I think it's unfair to judge Arteta in a vacuum. I think he's there to be criticised because that's what happens with big managers. But you take out into consideration, well, Liverpool are not sitting still. Liverpool have gone and improved. Arsenal have gone and fixed the problem that people felt
Yeah,
that
but
they
you
had.
say it's unfair, Simon. You also said he's not brave.
In that individual game, yeah. And so the
So
point
he's going to have to change.
and possibly he's going to have to change. But right now, you're asking if Arsenal and Liverpool have an absolute dogfight to the end of the season, and Liverpool win the Premier League by one point, and Arsenal have been in it all the way through, do you think they're going to sack him? Do you think they should sack him? You look at Liverpool and say, well, Liverpool have won the Premier League. They're the Premier League champions. They've gone and improved. They've bought arguably the best centre forward in world football to improve themselves. They're bringing in one of the best centre backs in world football, in Gueye potentially. They've also improved in other areas. So it's unfair to operate in a vacuum that is Arteta the man. If the competition was not as good and had not improved, then you could just judge Arteta alone on his own merits. But Liverpool have gotten, not right now on the field, but once they get Isak in and once they get themselves together and they get their unit playing together as a cohesive unit, they will be a force. Because look at the players they've got.
That's something have to change, Simon. I'm sorry to say that because when you bring new players, you need to, of course, it takes time, to get the links between players. But I'm still wondering because yesterday was very frustrating. If I was Jokeres, I would question myself, did I make the right move, to come to Arsenal? Because every time I run, I never get the ball. I'm quite isolated up front, and I have no links with my teammates. And yesterday I've seen so many times Mourinho, Zubimendi, looking at him. They show the run he was making in the open space. Hey, I come back and I give back the ball. I mean, how long do you think that's going to last, So I know...
But they won't set up that way for every game, though, will they? Eze has been bought for a reason. He hasn't been bought to come on the 70th minute, has he? He's been bought on...
Yeah, but he was on the bench yesterday.
That's my point is that will change. He won't be... They were set up to play against Liverpool. They won't play that against every other team they're playing against. You'll see Eze and the creativity of Odegaard. And
Why
Eze
he was on the
and
bench yesterday, Simon?
because I think that Arsenal set up in this particular game to negate Liverpool rather than...
Why Martinelli was on the first 11 on the tip sheet when everybody was saying that he's going to leave the club, and he's still at the club, and you put Eze on the bench against Liverpool, the toughest opponents in the Premier League. I'm a former player, and I'm a big fan of Arsenal, and when I looked at before the start of the game, I'm thinking, what the hell?
But would you expect Eze to come straight into a side that he's never played with, a group of players he's never played with, and be impactful from the get-go?
Well, Emmanuel, before you answer that, Dominic's a big Arsenal fan. Dominic, were you like Emmanuel Petit? When you saw the team sheet, you think, what the hell?
Morning, Jim. Morning, guys.
Good morning.
I think at the end of the day, it's very easy to overreact when Arsenal have lost 1-0 away to the champions. But the reality is that life is full of sliding door moments, and I think Arteta will look back at yesterday and say to himself, we had an opportunity to win that game. And I think his conservativeness in playing Martinelli, who is a quicker player and can get back to defend faster, and Mourinho at number 10 instead of someone like Lanreri, was a mistake. And we had an opportunity to go out and make a statement win. And I think he's going to look back on yesterday and regret that. And in the same way that we look back 3 years ago and we say if Saliba hadn't got injured, we may well have won the league instead of Man City. But the reality is that we lost the game. If we beat them 2-0 at the Emirates, then all bets are back on, aren't they? So I think we just need to calm down, because at the end of the day, it's one game. We're only 3 games into the
Here's
season.
Emmanuel, briefly. What do you want to say to that?
No, I think I did agree with that, because when you hear, you know, what I just said on the press conference after the game, he said that they were much better than last season. Everybody, he was very happy, very proud of his players. So I think if he looked back at the game yesterday, I'm not sure that he would realize that he had made a mistake before.